Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 450 of the Stacey West podcast. That's a big old number, isn't it? I'm your host, Ben. Yeah, I'm your host, Ben, and I'm joined tonight by Chris. How are you, my good man? Are you well?
Apart from interrupting you just then in your intro, yes, very well. Thank you. Sorry about that. But yeah, I'm all right, mate. All good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm very, very excitable this week because there's lots of favourites that are all happening at the same time, and it's very, very nice. I've got to say this because she's watching, but my favourite person in the world has got a birthday tomorrow. So yes, there is that. That's the sycophantic, sickly bit out of the way. But on top of that, my favourite football club are second in the league, 1 point off top and 10 points clear of third. That's incredible. Then my favourite TV show of all time is coming back after 15 years away tonight. And my favourite band in the world are releasing a live album on Friday. Everything's coming up, Benji, Chris. It's brilliant.
Oh, mate. I'm chuffed to bits for you. What is said TV show? Is it what I think it is?
Scrubs.
Yes, it is what I think it is, yeah.
Scrubs is back, and I'm very excited. I'm very, very excited about it. There's 2 episodes happening tonight. And yeah, I'm all giddy about it. And yeah. Obviously, it's helped enormously by the situation that we find ourselves in as a football club as well. It's just very nice, isn't it?
Oh, mate, it is very nice. And I found it really important. I felt almost like I've had Michael Scubala's words ringing in my ears for the last month or two. But I really honestly have absorbed them now in that it really is just one game at a time. And I genuinely have not got carried away at all. It's obviously nice. All these things are obviously really nice. I genuinely haven't had to work that hard to stop myself getting carried away. But then when you do, like I've been today, looking at all like the numbers and the metrics, and you're looking at the bigger picture, how everyone else is doing in addition to you, it does then become quite difficult to keep 2 feet on the ground. But yeah, it's obviously incredibly exciting, but there is still a long way to go. But we do have a game on Saturday to look forward to, nonetheless.
Indeed. I mean, well, somebody, I think it was Andy, good friend Andy on social media, said earlier, why is it that if we look at the likes of Port Vale and we see that they are 10 points adrift, everybody goes, oh, they're down. But as Lincoln City fans, you look at the fact that we're 10 points clear and you go, yeah, but...
yeah, no, you're absolutely right. It is. It should feel quite similar. I would say, to add balance to that, it does feel like a longer way to go and a bigger gap to close when you're down in 24th.
Yes,
by the nature of that, you're not a very good football team, don't win very often, but also teams down there maybe aren't also picking up as many points. But that feels like a more difficult task than trying to keep away from good teams in a chasing pack. That's again adding balance to the situation, simply for self-preservation purposes and nothing else.
Yeah, I did in the Discord. I did get called a pessimist just shortly before we went live on the podcast. I said, I'm not being a pessimist. I'm being pragmatic because, number one, if I sit here and go, we're going up, it's going to be amazing and we're going to win the league, and we don't do that, there will be clips around social media and I will have egg all over my face. So that's number one. And then number two is just, we're Lincoln City fans. Like we've kind of seen things capitulate before, but I just don't think that will happen this season. I think we will come good. But the other thing as well, on a similar note to the Port Vale thing, you have to ask the question, do you think that Bolton could catch Cardiff?
Shut up, Ben.
That's the question, because we're only 1 point behind Cardiff. So there is that. But anyway, look, we are tonight. We're doing something slightly different for a Wednesday podcast. We're going to jump straight into the preview first, and once we've done the preview, we'll obviously have the break and then come back, and then we're going to do some questions and the other news that's currently happening. So if you do have any questions and you're watching live, this is the kind of section that we're only talking to the folks that we're watching live. If you are watching live and you have some questions for us, drop them in the chat and we will do our best to answer them in the second half of the show. So today, Chris, Blackpool coming to town, the Seasiders, Ian Evatt bringing his team along. They've had a bit of an interesting run of form recently, where it kind of seems to be a slight uptick and then a little bit of, well, more than a little bit of a downturn for things. So we are taking it one game at a time, as we have alluded to. So when it comes to this game, Chris, what can we expect from Blackpool? Because they beat Mansfield 1-0, a couple of games ago. They drew against Bolton at the weekend. It feels like they've got something in there that's just sort of maybe hiding away, and we can't quite figure out why. Is this the potential banana skin that some people might think it could be?
Oh, again, at risk of going against everything I've just said about keeping my feet on the ground, the more you look into this particular match in isolation, you do feel it kind of favours us, really. Not just because of simple league position, but because of strengths and weaknesses of both teams. On the League One pod that we now do, which was released at the weekend, Carl asked me the question, are Blackpool any better under Ian Evatt? And the answer, I think, was a pretty definite yes. But they didn't have to be a lot better to be better than 24th and only 2 wins out of the opening 13 games, 0.69 PPG, sorry. Since Ian Evatt has taken over, they are good for 12th in the league, albeit current standings, of course, have them in 20th because of that awful, terrible start they had. But over the last 10 matches, they're still 20th in the league in terms of that little mini league table. So they do tend to get a couple of wins here and there, but maybe struggle to put those runs together. And then when you look at out of the wins that they have had, they won Ian Evatt's first 2 league games in charge against a struggling Peterborough at the time, and oddly against Cardiff, which is a bizarre one. But there was then a 3 or 4 games of I think it was losses, but it was certainly without a win. And then they've had 6 wins in the last sort of 15 matches or so. But those 6 wins have come against Rotherham twice, Doncaster, Wigan, pre-Gary Caldwell, Northampton and Mansfield. So every win that they've had has been against teams that are in that kind of bottom third of the table, their peers, if you will, which is a good sign from their perspective to show that they're probably a fair bit better than their league position suggests. They're definitely good enough to pull away from that danger area. But they do get beaten by the teams towards the top end of the table. And then you look at how they lose games. Well, Ben, this might sound quite nice because they've conceded the most goals in League One from set pieces.
Oh,
which is nice for us, isn't it? Being the team that scored the most goals from set pieces, but that's outcome driven. Let's have a look at kind of, is it cause and effect, or is there more to it? But yeah, they've also conceded the most shots from set pieces, and got the second highest XG conceded specifically from set pieces. Also conceded the most headed goals, so it's not just dead balls; it's kind of wide deliveries that they're weak at, and conceded the most headed shots. Basically, pretty crap at defending their box on first and or second contacts. I did look a little bit into, is this a hangover from just a terrible record at the start of the season? But actually 4 of the last 6 goals they've conceded in the league have come directly or indirectly from set plays. So before we even look at like the tactical setup, all of that surely is positive for us, isn't it?
It certainly sounds like it. I mean, there was a little bit of noise made, shall we say, before the Bolton game from, admittedly, several Bolton fans about how, you know, we were reliant on set pieces and we were, you know, we weren't able to play football and all that. And I know that's a very small minority of fans, but it's the ones that make the most noise. But you look at a lot of our goals recently, we've only, I think from the last few games, we've only scored one set piece, and that was a penalty.
Yeah,
but that is obviously still in our locker. You know, it is obviously a strength that we have. But I think there will be some people that will be maybe pigeonholing us still, even though we've proven that we've you know been a lot better than that for the majority of the season. I think there will still be a lot of people that think, oh, it's set pieces. But no, I do agree. It does play into our hands because it is a definite strength that we have. And I think the tactical flexibility that we've shown this season to turn around and go, okay, well, we know that we can probably get something out of a game here because of the weaknesses around set pieces or whatever it is. You know, I think Mansfield conceded the fewest set pieces in the division before we played them on Saturday. So we knew we'd probably have to do something a little bit different. It feels like this could be, I don't want to say tailor-made, but it feels like it could be, you know, a game that is playing into our hands more than not.
Yeah, there's certainly a lot of football that's going to happen between those boxes. But yeah, I think it's like going into Mansfield, like they'd actually conceded the fewest goals from set pieces in League One. So, you know, that's a bit of a strength of theirs. They showed that, I think, on Saturday. They were pretty solid at defending our set pieces. So you're absolutely right. Of course, there's so much more to our play than set pieces, but it's nice having that as well, isn't it? And that is just a real disparity from one team to the other coming into Saturday. But there's another whole aspect of this, which is, well, how do you actually get the set pieces in the first place? How do you get the opportunity to set up and load the box and have those rehearsed moments? That comes down to the kind of more tactical setup. And Andrew and Everett, Blackpool have pretty much always played a back three. More regularly than not, they've played a variation of a 3-5-2. So whether that be two holding players, one in behind two strikers, or more recently, two number 8s and then one sitting in front of the back three. But they have played a 3-4-3 a couple of times as well. And I do wonder if that kind of reasonably narrow 3-5-2 shape, obviously you've only got one player on either flank in that situation. If you're playing against teams that play a back four, then you're always going to have a 2v1 out wide. And if that's a particular weakness, maybe, you know, really stretching the pitch and playing wide is a way in. I know Michael normally likes to set us up to attack teams kind of within their structure. So kind of play inside. If you were to draw a line around the furthest apart players in the team, Michael normally likes us to attack inside that shape rather than outside it. But I wonder whether there might be an exception this time to try and get those doubles up down the wings and get balls in the box, particularly when looking at Blackpool's real weakness down their right flank. So in all thirds of the pitch, even their own defensive third, Blackpool's opposition on average throughout this season have more possession than Blackpool do. So that could be subject to poor players out there. That could be subject to really aggressive kind of play, wing backs being kind of bombing on and being caught out. But ultimately, overall, there's clearly a weakness coming from their right-hand side. There's a weakness of balls being delivered into the box and a difficulty dealing with aerial play. So for want of a better phrase, Ben, like it makes a bit of sense here just to shell it onto them a little bit. Obviously, we're going to have some, we'll have some nuance to that. There'll be a tactical element of how we do that, but it does make sense to play to our kind of physical strengths on Saturday. Also bearing in mind that, you know, we don't tend to play out from the back very often, but we might actually have opportunity to build some attacks from the back because Blackpool are also like the second or third most passive team out of possession, so quite deep in their starting their pressing. The third fewest number of like pressing sequences attempted and things like that. So it's a real contrast of strengths and weaknesses here. So yeah, to answer your question you asked about 10 minutes ago, I actually don't think this is a potential banana skin as much as maybe some other fixtures could be.
Fair enough. Well, you heard it here first, folks. Chris is being confident about the game. I mean, look, I shock horror. I tend not to go as deep into the nerdy statty side as you do, but looking at some of the stuff that I've seen from Blackpool, it feels to me like they've had, obviously they had a very tricky start to the season. They've changed the manager, and I think I've said before, I don't really like Ian Evatt, but I do respect what he does. And he seems to be, kind of grabbing Blackpool a little bit by the scruff of the neck and pulling them away from danger as much as he can. I mean, obviously, at the moment, where is the table? They are currently 19th in the table, 3 points out, or 3 points clear of the drop zone, although both Wigan and Leyton Orient do have a game in hand. But as we know, it's, games in hand at the bottom are not always guaranteed victories in that one. I mean, do we fear for Blackpool's safety this season, do you think? Or do you think they might have enough in their tank to maybe get away from it all?
Yeah, it's going to be tight because it's definitely going to be one team that you'd expect not to go down that does go down this season. Mm-hmm. And on Ian Evatt, I agree with you totally. Maybe don't necessarily like the bloke or like how his teams have performed or how he's conducted himself within that historically, but really respect the teams he's built and how they've gone about it, because they've had the ability to play really good football, but they've also had the dark arts and the kind of that robustness that Blackpool haven't quite got yet. They don't quite feel like an Ian Evatt team just yet. So can I see him going down? It's certainly not impossible. I can definitely see an eventuality where they do go down, but I think they've probably got enough to keep themselves safe. As mentioned, like where they get their wins are against the teams in and around them, which would indicate they are a better side than those teams in and around them. And if they could pick up their points in those matches that are upcoming, they'll be all right. And they've got I can't remember it now. I mentioned it on. It's on here. Here we go. Different bit of paper. They're next after us. They've got 4 matches. They've got Wigan at home, Wimbledon away, Donny away, Port Vale at home. Like they're 4 really big opportunities to create a little bit of a gap between themselves and the drop zone. Though of course Wigan are likely to be a more difficult proposition under Gary Caldwell than they were last time they played them. I think they'll be all right, but it's certainly not done yet. It's certainly squeaky bum time for him.
I was going to say it does feel a bit squeaky bum for them. I mean, look, I'm just going to go through some of the numbers that I have in front of me for Blackpool. They're not creating stuff. You mentioned it. In terms of shots create or chances created, big chances. They're sat at 14th in the table. However, that does lead to the lowest, and the klaxon goes off again. But the lowest XG in the division, at the moment. It feels, well, saying that, you've then got the XG difference, which I believe is the positive negative between what your XG is and what you've actually scored. They're sat at minus 17.9 in terms of this is what the XG says you should be scoring, and this is what you've actually scored. So they've scored nearly 18 goals fewer than the numbers say that they should have done, which feels unfortunate. But yeah, they look solidly mid-table for a lot of for a lot of the stats, apart from that one, from what I can see.
Both boxes. Yeah, both boxes. And I'm not here to shoot you down your numbers. I might have written mine down wrong here because cards on the table. when I was looking at this. Ben may or may not have had to give me a little nudge 3 minutes to kick-off time tonight. Say, are you logging in or what? Because I was completely lost track of time, and there's a couple of things that I wanted to look into that I haven't looked into yet. One being Ashley Fletcher, because he's obviously scored 13 goals this season, which is quite a lot. I wanted to have a little look into, have many of them come recently? Has he played more? And I don't know that. I can't cards on the table. But the numbers I've got for XG is, firstly, that they have created the least, which is, I think, at this stage of the season, a good indication that they're not creating high quality chances very often.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the other end of the scale, they've also conceded the third most. So that's a bad sign for any team. I've got here XG created 32.2, which is the lowest in the league. They've scored 40 goals, which would indicate that they've actually scored 8 goals more than the chances created would suggest that they should. But hey, I wrote that down in a rush. Maybe I've got that wrong. But ultimately,
that is correct. So I will hold my hands up. I've got the meaning of the difference wrong on that one. So yeah, that's on me. But yeah, the XG is 32.2, and they have 40 goals.
Yeah. So for a team that's not creating as many chances, or not many clear-cut chances, like the least in the league, and also for them to be overachieving and still not coming out on the right side of results, is not a good sign. So yeah, I don't want this to be just kind of punch Blackpool when they're down, because as mentioned in the chat, there are worse teams in the league than Blackpool. And you mentioned most of their metrics are very mid-table, and most of them are, but between both boxes, they're a perfectly functioning League One side. But there does appear to be a weakness at the moment in both boxes, struggling to create much in that final action and sticking it in the onion bag. And as mentioned earlier, a real weakness defending their own box from direct and aerial play. So you can do as good as you like between those two boxes. If you're not win them, you're not going to win many football matches. Now, Ian Everett's teams traditionally are good in both boxes, so do imagine that will change eventually. Hopefully not in time for Saturday.
Well, I was going to say we don't want to sit here and just kick them while they're down, but where are the dangers? Because obviously they do pose a danger. They beat Mansfield 1-0 a couple of weeks ago. They drew against Bolton at the weekend. Although that, to me, potentially feels a bit more. That may be a bit more Bolton are kind of desperate to get points on the board, and maybe being a little bit desperate opens them up in certain areas more than anything else. But they did take the lead against Bolton after going behind. They must have something about them, Chris. Come on,
absolutely
give somebody something.
Totally agree. Yeah, and when they're good, by the way, because there's in the last 10 games, they beat Mansfield 1-0. They beat Northampton 2-0, and they created 4.41 XG. So they didn't just beat Northampton; they absolutely battered Northampton, like we did. It's quite fashionable these days, it appears, to batter Northampton. And then against Bolton, it was just a mental game where both teams had huge numbers of expected goals. It's not all about XG, obviously, but that does go to show that when it clicks, it really clicks for them. So yeah, they're not toothless by any means. And in terms of chances conceded, they have really improved over the last 10 games. They've only actually conceded more than 1 XG on 4 occasions. So that's six matches where they kind of kept teams at arm's length defensively. So yeah, they're not going to roll over for us at all. And there's the big kind of elephant in the room, I suppose, of Ashley Fletcher, because he has scored 13 league goals this season, which is a really significant amount. And like I said, I ran out of time to look into any nuance around when those goals came, who they came against, whether he's even fit right now. Apologies, everyone kind of expects that from me, but I ran out of time. Sorry. But if he plays, the fact you scored 13 goals in a struggling team, he must be quite a good footballer. And he's certainly shown that this season and previous seasons before. I think for me, it'd be a case of can we stop the service? And what the evidence does suggest that they do struggle to create clear-cut opportunities, but they still score sometimes, don't they? They've scored 40 goals this season. They've scored more goals than matches they've played. So they're hardly rubbish at it when those chances do arise. And I think it's interesting that you mentioned the big chances. So, they don't make a lot of chances, but the chances they do create clearly are decent quality ones. So that's not to be underestimated either.
Yeah, and I mean, let's not forget, you mentioned Ashley Fletcher there. He got the equaliser on, when we played them back in December. We went, we went 2-0 up pretty quickly in that game. So it feels like if this is another game that we can maybe get a quick start in, if we do what we're good at, then it feels like, this could be another. I'm not going to say another rout, because you never want to say that ahead of a game. But it certainly feels like, this is one, like you said earlier, that is going to play into our strengths. Interestingly, you were saying about, Blackpool not liking to have the possession. In the reverse fixture away at Bloomfield Road earlier in the season, possession was pretty much split 2/3 to 1/3 in favour of Blackpool. I remember chatting to the lads from the It's Not Orange podcast, who we will have on for a preview. By the way, there will be a preview. I'm recording that after tonight's podcast goes live, so watch out for that one on YouTube. And they were saying similar things to what we've said about Lincoln. When they don't have the ball, they look all right. When they have less of the ball, they tend to perform better. So, we did actually say that about Northampton as well, but I didn't think Northampton were particularly good, whereas I think Blackpool have the potential to be particularly good if they are given the opportunities.
Yeah, I certainly think from an attacking standpoint, in terms of just individual quality as well, Blackpool are streets ahead of Northampton. I credit to Northampton to be where they are, or where they have been in the league previously in the season, to pick up once they have, with the individual quality of play and budget you'd imagine they have. I think it's been outstanding. Like, to compare Blackpool to them in terms of tactics, in terms of metrics, there are some comparables there, but in terms of just individual quality on the pitch, Blackpool are just so much better than Northampton are. And it doesn't take much for good players to eventually come good. And you mentioned about possession, because I do remember Ian Ebbott's Bolton, and as much as they could win in many ways, they didn't have to have the ball. I remember when you did allow them to have significant possession, they really would just smother teams and pin them in. And I haven't seen that from Blackpool just yet. But again, it's a real work in progress at the moment for them, isn't it? But it does make sense to play a little bit more risk averse away from home against a team second in the league when you're desperate for points. But also, I can't help but think they've probably got more of an eye on those fixtures coming up rather than us. I think anything against us maybe would be seen as a bit of a bonus, which is absolutely mental saying that would be the case.
I was going to say, it feels weird to say that.
Pre-season, that would be a silly thing to say, but the reality of how the league is structured right now, that might be the case. I suppose the last thing to say, just as, and this is not necessarily going to happen, but it would just be a little inkling from me. It wouldn't surprise me to see them set up 3-4-3, or maybe even a 5-4-1 sort of out of possession shape and step away from their 3-5-2 against us and our strengths. I don't know if that might give them a slightly greater control in nullifying our particular threats. So, and if that's the case, it would be a little bit of the game might have a bit of a Burton at home feel to it, possibly. Not in terms of just stylistically, but we'll see. I'm reasonably confident that our strengths will outweigh their weaknesses where it really counts in both boxes, but maybe actually quite an even game between those two boxes.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's going to certainly be another one where we look at it, and it may not be a classic, but we don't need classics at the moment. We need to get the points on the board. Just looking back over a couple of bits, just to pick myself up, when I said I got the stat wrong when it comes to the XG difference. I very much did get that wrong. Of course, it is the XG for and the XG against, and that gives you your quote-unquote goal difference rather than the difference there. So yes, that was my mistake on that one. You waved. I was confused.
I was like, it's fine. I was just going to say, you don't need to apologise to me.
No, not to you, but I do need to apologise to some because they'll pick it up. But anyway, yeah, I'm really intrigued as to how this one's going to go. Like I say, I'm not the biggest fan of Everett. I have a grudging respect for the way that he sets his teams up, and they seemingly do pretty well. It just feels like this is one of those moments where he's obviously picked up a team that has really struggled. And it does sound really strange to think, we are the free hit this season for some teams. It's madness. It is absolute madness. So right, that is the Bolton. That is the Blackpool preview. Do we think we will see any changes to the starting 11, Chris, from the weekend's game?
Ooh, good question. Maybe. Yeah, maybe. You know what's a real shame? Well, we don't know, but I'm assuming that Freddie's going to be injured and out of the reckoning. Like that. This is a fixture that really suits him.
Yeah.
So that's a shame that he's likely to miss out. I mean, it worked all right on Saturday, didn't it? But it's horses for courses, as Michael mentioned. Like if it's tactically right to change a player, then they'll do it. But we haven't had a midweek game this week. The last batch of changes came off the back of us having a midweek fixture. We made 3 or 4 changes for the Northampton game, and then basically changed back again, bar Freddie's omission and Ben House keeping his place in the team on Saturday. I mean, if it ain't broke, but it's not as simple as that, is it? Because each team offers a different threat. But that's sitting on the fence, isn't it? No, I don't think we'll change the team, Ben.
Okay, and because we are probably going to go to a break in a second, we will leave it for the break with a prediction, Chris. What do you reckon is going to happen?
2-0 win.
Okay, we're going with another clean sheet. That's a strong shout, considering that a few weeks ago I was almost desperate for a clean sheet, and then we've had a couple on the bounce. It's all good. To be fair, I'm also going to say a 2-0 win. I think it's I think it feels like the momentum is with us right now, and that's something that you can't. We've said it before. It's the intangibles, isn't it? At the minute, it just feels like there's a lot that is kind of going for us, and alongside having a strong squad, a strong first 11, and just a strong, run of games. I don't see this one being the end of this run just yet. But we shall certainly see. And we'll see a few more bits when we come back from a break. We're going to take a little ad break now and say hello to everybody that's watching live. Probably not individually, because once again, the numbers are just phenomenal. And yeah, I will also drop the timing. So if you are watching, or if you want to watch live, Sunday and Wednesdays at 7, we go live. So we'll see you the other side of this advert. Cool. Right, let's quickly whiz through who we've got in. So Andy's in, Devon Imp. Evening all from a fairly sunny Plymouth. It has been quite nice today, pretty much everywhere. Mr. Barton, who doesn't like his nickname, so I'm still going to call him Chilly Steve, is in. Ian London Imp, good evening from a very mild London. Great news yesterday about Stockport losing. Indeed it was. Flossie is in. Good evening, everybody. The wife is watching telly. Who else? Dominique is in. Paul is in. David Larder's in. TFSG, surprised Blackpool aren't bringing more fans. The season isn't over. They need points to avoid falling into the relegation spots.
Yeah, I didn't see how many they've brought, but I have seen that we are opening up elements of the Stacey West Stand, so it can't be that many.
No, it's a shame, that one. Ollie is in. How we doing, mate? You well? Richard's in. Happy Wednesday. Adam's here. Podcast Mum, Leslie's here. Greeting, lads, and all the podcasters. I did see some more folks. Steve is in, says we're going up. Have the faith. The faith is there, Steve. We just can't shout about it all that much because reasons. Anyway, yeah. Like I really want to be so excited, Chris, but I can't. I can't publicly do it.
You can't let yourself do it. I mean, we're all different. You can do what you like. Everyone's allowed to be as excited as they want to be. Like, who are we to say?
I am very
personally can't allow myself to be yet.
Just to get you
Genuinely.
excited, Keith says in the chat, if Bolton or Stockport were in second, 10 points clear of us, we'd all be saying it was done.
Oh, stop coming at me with logic.
Carl Zoon says, "Evening, gents. I know Carl is very excited about the live album from my favourite band as well." Sir Dixie says, "This season feels like a Football Manager save in a lot of ways." Absolutely does. Probably one that you quit and restart.
Yeah,
quite a lot.
You reload after every defeat and start again.
Yeah, something like that, doesn't it?
Save scumming, I think they call it, don't they?
Yeah. Waddle says, feels almost cute to remember us looking back on the 2 points dropped conversation after our last outing against Blackpool. We didn't know what a good run we were in for. 100%. Let's have a look. Jacob's in, as always. Good to see you, my friend. Good evening, guys. How are you? At the Imps, we're all good. Joe here says Fletcher has scored 2 goals since January the 18th.
Oh, so, thank you, Joe. I'll write that down.
There you go.
That'll save me doing that little bit for my prep for Saturday.
Phil says, hello, man. Up the Imps. Graithwaite says, how long is Freddie Draper out for? Not heard anything. We haven't heard anything officially.
No,
and
we don't know.
To be honest, we've not heard anything in the wind either. It's all gone a bit quiet. I think the only thing that I did hear was, I think John said it was a serious hamstring issue before the commentary started on Saturday. So that's all that there is.
Yeah, that's as much as I know as well, is that I suppose it doesn't sound great. But I imagine we will probably find out tomorrow in Michael's pre-match press conference, because they normally ask him about injuries, don't they?
Yeah, I will do. Mark says, greetings, guys. Saxon Beamps tuning in. Up the Imps. Jonathan Leonard says, evening, gentlemen. And he was saying, if I keep predicting Lincoln defeats, we will be promoted.
Good. Keep doing it.
In the Stacey West Discord Prediction League, which I jumped a few places in this weekend. I was very, very happy. Very happy. Although not as many as I think it was a chap called Steve who correctly predicted that we would beat Northampton 4-0 and then correctly predicted that we would beat Mansfield 2-0. So he gained a phenomenal amount of points.
Well done.
Yeah, really good stuff. And Andy says, are you co-commentating on Saturday, Chris?
I am. Yes, I am.
Oh, there we go. Excellent stuff. Well, yes. And I will say this now because it won't be on the main pod, so not everybody will hear it. But just for you live and VOD viewers and for Chris himself, you're doing a very, very good job, my friend. It's very enjoyable.
That's very kind of you. It still feels incredibly strange and doesn't feel real or normal yet, but I absolutely love it. So thank you. That's very kind of you.
I'm not blowing smoke. You're genuinely very good at it. So there we go. Right. And we will come back in and talk about the rest of things in 3, 2, 1. And that is our advert for the week. Again, I don't know who's doing the adverts these days, but I'm sure they're all very good. We're going to drop a little advert of our own. Get yourself over to Patreon, patreon.com. I think it's /Stacey West or the Stacey. I can't remember. It'll be linked on the website. Go to there. Drop a couple of quid a month in and you'll be able to get access to the finest Lincoln City community on the internet in our Discord. We have loads of discussions in there. It's really good fun, isn't it, Chris? I love our Discord.
Yeah, it's really good. Really good. Lovely community. I mean, it's easy to be nice to each other when things are going well, but people are even nice to each other when they're not going too well. It's really good.
Yes, indeed. So speaking of things going well, just phenomenal numbers. We're going to talk about ticket sales again because they're very exciting. We have sold, or Lincoln City rather, have sold more than 2,500 gold memberships, and they've been on sale about a week.
That's incredible.
I'm staggered by that. It always used to be, well into the end of the first window that those numbers were hit. But 2,500 season tickets sold already, and of those, more than 600 are brand new purchases. So that is whether people are buying it completely new or upgrading from bronze or silver. I think Gary said it on the pod on Sunday, but the club are getting to the point where they may be running out of available seats. So we might have, you might have to wait until somebody doesn't upgrade their gold membership to get in one. So yeah, just unbelievable numbers, and it feels like it could be a very good price for Championship football. But yeah, so very out of the blue rumor came around.
Oh yeah,
from Alan Nixon this week that apparently Lincoln are very interested in Luke Graham from Dundee. Now, okay, fair enough. We'd be interested in a defender. That's maybe not the profile that we're potentially looking for just yet. But if things happen and we need to potentially upgrade some areas of the squad, would possibly make sense. Luke Graham has a price tag of around £2 million, Chris.
Apparently so. Yeah, apparently so. This one took me by surprise, I must admit, Ben. But mainly because I wasn't really expecting to be hearing too much about transfer rumours at this stage of the season. But, but yeah, we always like to touch on them, don't we? I'm not going to say this is a no-go, but it doesn't tick that many boxes for me. Mainly because he's a left-sided centre-back and we've already got a starter in Sonny Bradley and a protege in Riley Towler. So where would he play? Basically, where would he actually fit? Where would he fit into the hierarchy of the squad? Because I know the club think really highly of Riley Towler. Do see him as basically learning the role of Sonny Bradley as and when that the time comes. But we did pay a fee for Riley. He's been part of the squad for such a long time already and been really dependable when he's been in the team. So, if we were to sign Luke Graham for that price, you'd imagine he's coming in over above Riley. I just don't think that's a priority at all. No. Do I expect it to maybe sign Earth's defender at some point in the summer, regardless of what league we're in? Yeah, maybe, because there's always that little bit of churn, isn't there? But yeah, a reasonably ball-playing kind of centre-back on the left-hand side who is decent at things like aerial duels, in fact, he's not decent. He is very good at that. So kind of, I would say stylistically, like profile-wise, does fit in quite well. Doesn't create make many mistakes on the pitch. Good age. 1 year left on his contract when it comes to the summer. So there are a lot of things that make a lot of sense about this, other than the fact we've already got 2 left-footed centre-backs and it's going to cost £2 million. And even if we are to get promoted, I very much doubt we're going to be seeing Lincoln City spend that kind of money on anybody.
Yeah, that feels like the big red flag in this one. Obviously, there will have to be changes in the way that some things are done if the promised land is reached and we do go up. However, I just don't see us spending 7-figure sums on defenders just yet. Like it feels a bit off to me. But we will see what happens.
Sorry.
Oh yeah, we'll keep tabs on it, and if I'm proved wrong, I'm proved wrong. But I think the thing that we said when we spoke to Jez on deadline day was that we aren't going to be a club that suddenly starts throwing millions of pounds at players, because that's not the Lincoln City way. Yeah. And they want to keep the Lincoln City way, even though we have a new chairman, a new owner with very deep pockets. I don't think that's going to be the sudden pivot to, cool, yeah, we'll just spend millions on a new defender.
Yeah, and that's the message that's been said quite clearly ever since Roy Fowler came in. I remember Liam. I quite like how Liam puts it. He says we're not suddenly going to have a personality transplant just because we've got a new name on the front door, sort of thing. It's we're still going to do what's worked for us. And let's be honest, the approach that we've been taking, it's worked pretty well. So it would seem a little bit silly to step significantly away from that approach, wouldn't it?
Yep, 100%. Right, other news that is happening at the moment. Junior Takeover Day has been announced. I thought that was a good thing to bring up, because that's always good fun, isn't it?
Yeah, it's brilliant.
Like, it's just especially with the feel good vibes at the moment. I mean, which game was it for? It's the Rotherham game, isn't it? So that is going to be on the 21st of March. So could be a bit further down the line in terms of things may be happening, or it could be, it could even just be a full day of celebration. Who knows? I don't think it probably would be that that far from the end of the season, but
I mean, things will have gone very, 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 very well
yes,
if that's the case.
yeah,
but it's always a great day. Like, it's always brilliant.
Yeah.
The fan takeover, the what do they call it?
Junior Takeover Day.
Thank you, the Junior Takeover. Yeah, it's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And I always like the little YouTube video that comes out a few days after that kind of showcases it all. Because you get to see it on the day, you see little snippets, but yeah, then you see all the kind of behind the scenes stuff as well. It's really good fun, very heartwarming, and it's just a nice celebration of what this club really is all about. And yeah, things on the pitch are going brilliantly right now, but yeah, this is something that's been a fixture of the club for years, even when things haven't been quite so good on the pitch. Like, it's a community, isn't it? That's what this place has always been, and it always hopefully will be. And it's nice to showcase that again, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. And this Saturday's game against Blackpool is the Her Game 2 dedicated fixture. So get yourself to the fan zone, visit the stand, go and give, get Rach to give me some stick, because I'm sure she will. She'll be on the stand, and we'll be handing out freebies and all sorts. And I believe there is a raffle for a signed shirt of some description, signed by the first team. So that will be well worth your time to get involved in. Right, let's move into a few questions, Chris, because we did put the call out at the start of the show. We have a few in the comments, and we have also had a few from the Discord. So we'll start with the Discord ones first. This one was from Connor, and he says, player of the season contenders, most improved player, and most surprising player.
It's so difficult because there's so many good players. I struggle to see much further than Conor McGrandles for player of the season.
Mm-hmm.
For most surprising, just because I think he's pushed on to a level that none of us expected. We have mentioned on this podcast, maybe we underestimated his ability and influence historically. So maybe it's partly that. But I also think there is an element of playing deeper, playing in that role that is requires so much more. What's the word I'm looking for? Responsibility, maybe, is the right word.
Yeah,
I just think he's been unbelievable for us. So I struggle to see much further than Conor McGrandles for maybe any of them.
Yeah, I think that for me, player of the season, Conor McGrandles is absolutely the player of the season for me so far. Like, from a player that I will openly admit that when we re-signed him, I think even on the deadline day live, I think I may well have said that feels potentially a little underwhelming, because it was a returning player that had gone up to a different club and hadn't necessarily impressed there. And I thought, yeah, okay, fine, we've got him back. He'll probably fit in the squad somewhere. To go from that to just being arguably one of the best midfielders in the division is just phenomenal. And yeah, I absolutely 100% hold my hands up and say I was wrong on that deadline day when that happened. Most improved player, I think it's got to be Freddie Draper, hasn't it?
Yeah. I was thinking like Conor in terms of our perception of him, maybe. But yeah, Fred, I think there was a real obvious physical change from him. Yes. It sounds like in the summer there was a psychological switch in his mind as well, which was a good sign. But yeah, in terms of like the player he's turned into, like he now beats up defenders in League One for a laugh, really. And you kind of forget he's still only 21, I think. He's
22, I think now.
I was 22 now, so still a very young, very, very young forward. And yeah, he's just really matured, hasn't he? Really matured, become a a real key player in a very, very good team. Let's not forget, it's not just one of our own. It's not just a young lad doing well in League One. He was a key player in a team that's second in League One. Like that's a pretty good place to be. So yeah, totally agree with you. I think Fred has to go top of the list for that category for me.
And then the most surprising player of the season, Chris.
Yeah, I think Connor again, mainly just because of perception. I think we respected his contribution before, and maybe there was a few doubts around that from some parts of the fan base. But without wanting to repeat myself too much, even those of us that really liked Conor McGranass and felt he's a really valuable player, did any of us expect him to become as important and as influential as he has this season?
No,
so surprising not. For me in the most positive of ways. I think he has to win that for me as well.
I think at this stage of the season, for me, the most surprising player is probably Adam Reach.
That's a good shout.
Because I think we all knew the situation over the summer. We all knew we needed to get a left back in. And I think it was fairly obvious that we were holding out the hope for Josh Honohan. And then on deadline day, to get Adam Reach in, a player in his mid-30s who has been a free agent for for quite a while, was playing in the PFA team, over the closed season to keep his fitness up, to bring in that profile of player on deadline day. I don't want to say that it smacked of a desperation signing, because that is really, really harsh on the club. But it felt like it was one of those where you go, oh, okay, we've signed a left back. This feels like it's clearly a stopgap until the Honohan deal can go through.
Yeah, good point.
And then he's just been a revelation. He's been absolutely superb, and he's a lovely bloke as well.
I think that's a really good point. You kind of have to cast your mind back, and you're not kind of thinking about the players as they are now. You're comparing where they are now to how we thought where we thought they would be at the point that we started at the start of the season. And the big one for me with Reach is the fact we gave him a 1-year deal, and it wasn't announced at the time that there was an option for an extension. Obviously, he has got that contract extension, but we didn't even say it was a club option of 1. We now know there was probably triggers in regard to like appearances and things. But you're right. At the time, it felt this is a temporary stopgap until we get Josh Honohan. I mean, it sounded like a pretty good one on paper, but with a player in his situation, you don't know whether they're over the hill yet, do you? Like players at that age, some like Tendai Darikwa play like they're mid-20s still, and clearly have fitness levels to go with it. But there are lots of players, not necessarily in this squad, but there are lots of players playing across the AFL that are into their 30s on a downward trajectory in their career, and you don't necessarily get the best version of them. But yeah, like you say, Adam Reach has been an absolute revelation. I suppose another one to add into the mix is Rico Hackett. Like, he's had more goals and assists than anyone else in the team. And like I like to think we've always probably seen Rico's qualities, but did any of us expect him to be our top performer in terms of goals and assists at this point of the season?
No, I think that the slight argument there is that we've always seen the quality that Rico has. It's just been sort of there in fits and starts, whereas now he's really being very consistent with it all. But I think, for me, it's Adam Reach, because it was an unknown quantity coming in, and just if you were looking at it from the outside in, the optics of it, Lincoln need a left back. They've signed a player in his mid-30s on deadline day to come in. Yeah, all right, fair enough. He'll probably do okay. And he's just been phenomenal. So to me, that feels like the surprise. Right, next one from the Discord was, if we get to the promised land, keyword being if.
Big if.
Let's get smaller. If you get to the promised land, do you think top-end Premier League clubs will look at Lincoln as a good loan placement for some young stars?
Probably, but also I don't know, and this isn't a definite yes or a definite no. I just don't know if we will be wanting to rely on loan players to improve the quality of our team significantly, because they go back after a year, don't they? But if we are lucky enough to go up, maybe that is the difference. Just that first season, of just bumping the overall quality of your squad up to maybe keep you up. I don't know, maybe, but ultimately, I think what do bigger clubs want from loans? They want opportunities. They want the players to actually play. They want them to play at a good level, but they want them to be in a good environment that's going to treat them as their own. And I think we've proven time and time again that we can be entrusted with doing that. So, yeah, would we, from a Premier League's perspective, would Lincoln City in the Championship probably be quite a good option for a certain profile of player? Yes. I am still undecided if and when we do go up, would that be an approach that we really want to prioritise? Yeah. Who knows? And that's not a now debate, is it? I suppose that's maybe
no. I mean, it feels like it would be a bit of a shift in philosophy. We've obviously had the period where we were loaning players to do well, and it nearly got us to the Championship before. With the COVID season and the two big names now. But do we have the need to go back to that if we go up? I would argue that I would argue we wouldn't be reliant on loans, but maybe one or two to bring it up. Because also the other thing we've said before about the club treating the human aspect of people very well. And this was mentioned on in the fans forum as well. I think the bit that's up on YouTube where they say, would we bring in loan players that are just going to give us the league, this season? It's like, no, because we have players that are doing a job for us, and we want to treat them right, and we want to, be able to say, you're all kind of in the same ballpark in terms of, your contracts and everything along those lines. It would be unfair to have somebody come in on 3 or 4 times, whatever that is, and just sit there and go, cool, well, he's going to win us the league. Like it feels like it would potentially upset the squad. But yeah, again, it's a hypothetical. We'll have to ask this question at the start of next season.
Yeah, it'll be easier to answer that. Let's just say best case scenario, we are in the Championship. It'd be best case scenario, all the players that we want to be in the squad at the start of next season are and fit. It'll be interesting to see what approach we need to take to increase the floor and the ceiling of our current level of ability. Because you're always going to you always want to increase the quality in your team. You always want to add those couple at the top. You're probably always going to get a couple that drop off the bottom as well. That's just football, isn't it? And it'll be interesting to see how we go about that approach. But again, I do feel a little bit uncomfortable discussing it until it's even worth.
I know you do. I know, but I'm not going to stop you. I'm not going to stop probing because it's just fun to watch you squirm.
It's a really viable question. It's just really difficult to say, I think we will, or no, I don't think we will, because there's pros and cons to both of them. And it's if we're still in League One, the answer is no. But if we're in the Championship, it's so many moving parts and ifs and buts and maybes.
Another equally difficult question. If this team were to strengthen, where would you strengthen?
Oh, bloody hell. Athletes, I would say. We just need, Championship is full of athletes. You just need legs.
Yep.
So we've got some players that really, really fit that mold, and particularly our asset players. They're big, they're strong, they're quick, they're powerful. That's our kind of DNA, I think, for certain profiles of players. Slight bit of extra pace on the back line, maybe, but we maybe already have that in Deji. It depends who leaves, and it depends what's available, doesn't it? But I think something that is such an important part of how we play is being able to run harder and faster and more aggressively for longer than our opposition. That becomes more difficult. It becomes more difficult to do those things better than your opposition at the next level, simply because of the physical capacity of Championship players. So I suppose, just more of that kind of, I suppose, not actually on steroids, but I was going to say what we do now, but on steroids, but obviously not actually on steroids, because then they wouldn't be allowed to play, would they? No. But that would be my opinion. But what do I know? We've become pretty accustomed to League One and what it takes to be successful and competitive. We don't really know the Championship quite so well as fans, as pundits, do we? So, but that would be the gut instinct for me.
Yeah, there we go. I do have a very public apology to make. I got the date of the Her Game 2 dedicated fixture wrong. It is the 14th of March, not this weekend. My apologies. 14th of March, which is the Stockport game, I believe. So yes, that is when all of the fun stuff will happen, and we will of course mention it again nearer the time. I got confused because there's a game at the weekend, and I'm very excited about a lot of other things. So, right, where are we now with our questions? Right, we got a question actually on the League One podcast, which very enjoyable podcast actually. I'm liking that one, and it's all kind of a bit more quickfire, punchy on each game. Good. Like
I know, I'm not quite sure how I'm managing it, but I am at the
moment. And this has just got Chris written all over it. So Paul Larking asks, one thing I would ask, if I'm allowed to, of course you're allowed, is could you do an analysis of shots taken to shots on target to goals scored? I watch the BBC Stats Live every game, and while I can't complain because we keep winning, I get very frustrated at what seems in my mind to be a very low conversion rate. Am I right that the lads need more practice, target practice every week, or should I apologise because other teams are worse than us? Thank you for what you do for all of us loyal to the club. Up the imps.
Firstly, thank you for your question, and thank you for the kind words, but also thank you for your question because it is nerdy. But it's a really quick answer to this, because and please take this in the most light-hearted way, but you do owe the lads an apology actually, because we have taken the 9th most shots in League One this season, so up there, but not peppering the goal compared to some teams. But we've actually had the 5th highest total of shots on target, so that's nice. That goes to show that a far higher percentage of our total shots are actually ending up on target than lots of other teams. But the most important metric of them all is that conversion rate that was mentioned. So basically, how many shots do you need to take for it to go in goal, for it to end up in a goal on average? Ours is 13.99%, near enough 1 goal every 7 shots. That is the best conversion rate in League One. To add context, the worst conversion rate in League One is Port Vale, unsurprisingly, on 6.94, which is basically 1 goal every 15 shots. Bolton, actually, the second lowest, 1 goal every 13 shots. League average is about 1 in 9. So we're actually performing well above average for the level in terms of how many shots does it take for us to actually make the net bulge. For reference, unsurprisingly, Manchester City have got the highest conversion percentage in the Premier League. Theirs is 14.62. So that's only 0.63% higher than ours. Obviously, we're not playing in the Premier League, but just in terms of that one metric, we would actually be 3rd in the Premier League for our conversion rate. So, we're actually pretty good at it. That's that. They're the numbers. We're pretty good. Oh, also, 3rd highest XG per shot, which just indicates that the chances that we are taking are in good areas.
There we go. I learned something.
But to be honest, I didn't really know any of that until this question was asked. So it was nice to find it. And what's really nice, because this isn't always the case, every single bit of that information was all on one website. And that's rare. And if anyone is interested, the website that I used for that particular info is called theanalyst.com. It's from the Opta Analyst, so it's Opta Data. Click on League One, click on Stats, and it's on there somewhere.
Fair enough. Well, there we go. Right, and now we will go into some questions from the live chat. So if you want to get your questions in for next time, join us live. It's good fun. Joe says, evening chaps, great time to be in. With a question, with success comes a strange sense of anxiety, losing key figures to larger clubs. If we go up, How likely is it that Skubala will remain? Should he get offers from teams like Leeds et al?
It's a massive question, isn't it?
It is. Now, I am going to say that I don't think Michael Skubala leaves us before the end of the season to go to any club, because I just think I genuinely believe him. I think somebody put in the Discord the other day that he bumped into him and he was having a chat with him. He said, "Oh, what about Leicester?" He said, "I've got I'm here on a journey and I'm not getting off until it's done." And I believe that. Now, bear in mind, I think I probably said on this very podcast that I also believed Danny Cowley when he said very similar things around that time. However, I think there will be something to be said for, and this is purely from a selfish, pragmatic point of view from Michael. There is something to be said for having a promotion on your CV in the manner that it looks like it may well come about. Yeah, and if he sees it through, that is a huge gold star on his CV. And once he's gotten us there, he is fully entitled to do whatever the hell he wants.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. This is where I suppose the natural order of the hierarchy of football just comes in, doesn't it? But let's answer the question like openly. So there's two parts to it: losing players and then losing the manager. I think our recruitment team have shown that we can lose key players and we can replace them really well. Mm-hmm. And as much as I really like our current squad, like it's a likable bunch of players that have shown immense qualities. If we were to lose any of those key players to bigger clubs for decent fees, I fully back those in charge to be able to create a squad that is competitive and can replace those players really well. I think they have certainly earned that trust over many years, but particularly this summer and this winter. Mm-hmm. Michael Skubala is a very different proposition, because as much as he's the first person to say it's not just him, it is very much a collective effort, and that is not just just saying it for the sake of it. Like, there is so much evidence to show that is the case. But he's the one that has his name on the front door. He's the one that fronts it up at the end of the day, and therefore he'll be the one that will attract the most interest. And as you say, if he does take us up, rightly so. Well, even if he doesn't, still rightly so. But if he does, obviously, rightly so. I'm with you. I'd be really surprised to see Michael leave it this season. I believe him. I just can't see it in any club. If we're in the Championship, let's say it's summertime, and I think you mentioned about being poached by the Premier League. Now, so few managers in the Premier League are recruited directly from the Championship. Mm-hmm. Now, that doesn't mean it's impossible, but so few are. Your best bet of managing in the Championship, in the Premier League, is by taking a team out of the Championship. Now, there will obviously be so many far bigger teams in the Championship than us. I imagine it will be very, very difficult for Michael to say no if the right club with the right support network and ownership model came calling, and none of us would begrudge him moving on and bettering himself after performing a minor miracle here. But in terms of our success as a football club, I would be so much more concerned about losing him than any of our players.
Yeah, no, I would agree. But I think it's obvious that, I mean, success will breed attention, and with that attention comes the kind of attention that you don't want. I think if we were to go up, I think manager of the season is an absolute no-brainer. And then with that accolade comes everything else alongside it. So yeah, it's a possibility. Right, we will move on to another question from Paul. It says, who is our most saleable asset?
Right now, probably Jack Moylan.
Mm-hmm.
But we've got a few in the squad. Ivan's in there, George Wickens in there, just to name a couple. Tom Hamer isn't, has been like statistically one of the best League One centre backs this season, albeit a little bit older than the other ones, but would still be justifying a reasonable fee, I think. So we've got a few, but if I had to pick one, I would say Jack Moylan right now. Freddie obviously is going to be a big one in there in terms of his stature and his age, but in terms of just form right now, Jack Moylan's going to be a player that, like, in terms of his highlights reel, you can't help but take notice if you're a fan of an opposition club, let alone a scout.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, the Bolton game was a Jack Moylan highlight reel anyway. I think was it the Entity 20 said it was the once in a year phenomenon where one player had 10 shots, and that player was Jack Moylan. Gerard says, if we go up, I love the fact that the questions are starting like this. Do you think we'll play the same way in the Championship, or do you think we'll have to change our style? I think...
you go first.
I'll go first because this is the uninformed idiot's opinion. I think there will have to be some levels of changes, but I don't think you'll see a complete shift in identity. I think we'll try and do what we do well and adapt. I don't necessarily think we'll have for example, I don't think we'll see Michael go, all right, we're in the Championship now. Sod it, I'm going 3 at the back, and that's my new way of playing, and this is how we do everything. And we'll still have that flexibility, but I think we will try and adapt our current style to the Championship rather than the other way around.
Yeah, I think we certainly keep our identity. This maybe indirectly links to the next question as well, actually, but don't bring it up just yet. But we'll maybe worth touching on about the budgets as well, because this squad has been designed, and this starter player has been designed for 2 purposes in my mind. Number one, what strengths can give you an advantage over an opponent that doesn't necessarily cost as much? Things like set pieces being a prime example of that, like prioritizing set pieces and having a real focus on them, and having a squad that's capable of and willing, like it's a psychological thing as well, willing to put time and effort into that. That's a really good way of overachieving. We've shown that this year. Being able to run faster, harder, more aggressively, further, etc., than the opponent. That has been another way that we've been able to overachieve our budget this season. In order to go in the Championship, we'll need to overachieve our budget again. So, yeah, it's how do you overachieve? Now, the questions that are asked of you by Championship teams are different to those that are asked of you from League One side. So there will absolutely have to be adaptation, of course, but I would expect the principles and the values that this squad has got, and what Michael clearly has as a manager, like if you'd absolutely keep hold of those. So I would still imagine us to be a team that wants to play on the front foot. I'd still imagine us to be a team that wants to play with a high intensity, to press high, to stop opposition teams getting out. What's likely to happen is you probably come against more teams that do actually want to play against you because they think they've got better players. That might actually suit us in a really weird way. So yeah, short answer to the question is I can see us keeping the same principles, but also every single player at this level has strengths, but also has weaknesses, and you generate a system. And Michael's been kind enough to share elements of this with us. You generate a system which shows and uses the strengths of those players, but also kind of hides the weaknesses a little bit. And an example of this might be something like, Paul O'Connor was outstanding for us last season. I think he win more first contacts in his own box than any other player in League One or something mad like that. But if you ask Paul O'Connor to try and defend on the halfway line, and half the game he's chasing back towards his own goal, he's maybe not going to look quite as good or be quite as effective as he was in our team. So maybe it comes back to a previous question, and like it depends what the squad actually looks like come next season as well.
Okay, and this one is from TFSG Imp. It says, if we do go up, there it is again, would you expect us to have the lowest budget in the Championship next year? Without a doubt.
Yeah, almost certainly. But I think there is an important but here. And I don't want this. You go first.
I think the but here is it depends who goes up through the playoffs.
Okay, there's two buts then. Yeah, fair point. Completely fair point. But my but is is number one, we will have a much larger budget than we have this season because we'll get an extra 10 to 11 million quid just given to us just by virtue of being in the championship in the first place. Of course, not all of that is going to go into wages. That would be unwise. And you want to keep some of it back to improve the overall infrastructure of the football club. But we will be able to spend more on the playing squad than we are right now.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, it's very, very likely that we will have the lowest budget in the championship. The other side of this argument is that we've currently got the 18th highest budget in League One. So right now we are plus 17. We are overachieving where we should be, according to, if that is your main metric. Now, we know that's not the only metric, but it is also a pretty good barometer. Ultimately, we have had to, if we do it, we will have overachieved our budget by 17 places. But we've also overachieved our budget by a good few places pretty much every season for the last 3 or 4 seasons. If we've got the 24th budget in the championship, we've only got to overachieve our budget by 3 places in order to stay up. Relatively, and obviously the squad isn't changing, so there's a lot of moving parts here, but relatively speaking, in terms of the size of the challenge, it feels to me that getting promoted out of League One with this budget is actually a harder challenge and would deserve higher praise than staying up in the championship next season with the lowest budget in the league. They'd both be quite nice. But you get my point, kind of relatively.
Yeah, no, I get you. I think on paper you're correct, but I think the challenge is significantly more than just what's on paper.
Yeah, of course it isn't, and that is absolutely where football is definitely not played on paper in those situations. But we're good at overachieving our budget, so as long as it's near enough, could you back us to create something that gives us that chance of staying up? You've only got to stay at once, haven't you? Stay at once, you can then build. Hey, maybe we're getting ahead of ourselves after me saying right at the start of this podcast about not getting ahead of myself. I'm now talking about the season after we stay up in the championship. So maybe just calm down a little bit here, mate. But
well, there's 2 questions left. So Andy says, what happens to our present loaned out players if we go up next season? If we go up next season, we'll be in the Premier League. What happens to those loan players? The honest question is, I don't think any of us would really know. Particularly the likes of Oshin. I imagine he would go to a League 2 club, or it would probably be another loan, but a step up. I could honestly imagine. Well, I can't see JJ McKiernan being a part of the squad.
Oh yeah, I keep forgetting about him.
If we're in the championship, but I don't know. It feels like it would be another succession of loans at a higher level.
Yeah, probably. I think you can never really map the rate of progression for a player. So you can kind of have an idea, can't you? And I
suppose if they have a breakout season or something along those lines.
It's most logical to kind of do that step-by-step approach. There might be, who knows, there might become a point for 1 or 2 of them where the jump's too high and we think maybe they're not going to get into our first team ever and it's time to part ways and give them an opportunity to go and play regular football permanently. But there might be 1 or 2 that maybe have been playing at a certain level but have just developed and progressed so much and come back in pre-season and actually are very viable players in our squad next season, regardless of what league we're in. So yeah, it's difficult to say. Other loans are probably more likely, but I wouldn't say it's fair to really predict that.
No. And then there was one other question that was in the Discord that I did drop to you earlier, but I didn't ask it. Very, very quick question, very, very quick answer, because I believe Emily has already given her answer to this question on the podcast, and we are dramatically over time, so we do need it to be very quick. Chris,
Yeah.
do you genuinely think that we could actually go up as champions?
Well, the key word to that question, Ben, is could. So could we? It could, yeah. We could. We could also not finish in the top two. But yeah, we could. Why not?
I think we could. And I genuinely, the more it goes on, and obviously a lot will fall on that weekend in Cardiff, but it just feels like the momentum is really starting to shift in a way that feels exciting. And it could happen. And if it could happen, we can't rule it out. So
no, we can't rule it out. I genuinely don't give a shit about it.
Well, no, but I think I said this, and I'm aware I've said this needs to be quick, so I will just say this. I think I said this the other day. At what point does the discussion change from how many teams are chasing us to can we chase Cardiff?
I don't know.
It's just a question. I'm just asking questions, Chris. I'm that guy. I'm just asking questions.
I know you said quick, so I will be really quick, but there's just two elements, isn't there? There's just two parts of your brain. There's the logical, and normally it's the other way around, isn't it? But there's the logical side normally says, no, don't be silly. But then there's the heart saying, yeah, what if? It's actually the other way around now, because it's your heart is kind of saying, just steady on now. Let's not get too ahead of ourselves. Let's keep ourselves calm. But a lot of the logic suggests that we're pretty good in a good spot. I do think Cardiff are good. I think their loss at the weekend is a bit of an anomaly, and I think it's going to be a really tough proposition at their place on a huge pitch on Saturday, next Saturday. But be good fun, won't it? Be good fun. But we've got a game against Blackpool to win, hopefully first.
Yes, indeed, we shan't overlook that. But the thing is that there is your head, there is your heart, and then there's that other part of your body that's just like, I'll have a pint of going up juice, please. And that's where I'm currently at. So brilliant. With that being said, only one thing left to say, because we are over time, so we do apologise, but it has been fun. And that is the drinking game that somebody emailed us with a drinking game. So there you go.
Yes, whoever, I've forgotten the name of the person. That was absolutely superb.
I think it was Owen.
Yes, very good. Very good.
Yeah, very good fun. That's your drink topped off, because we've gone over time. It's been fun, but that's probably all we're going to do now. So we'll see you on Sunday. Up the Imps.
Up the Imps.